Good morning and welcome to SimWorld today. It's February 27th. It's Thursday. I teased yesterday that we were going to have a special guest for a special, potentially recurring segment. We do indeed have that special guest, and that special guest is none other than Sir Maestro. Good morning, Maestro. How are you?
Good morning, my brother. It's good to see you. Things are still nice in here in Hawaii. I heard they didn't miss me in the last two corporate meetings with SimWorld, but I will be back on the plane this afternoon. Maybe.
Look, we miss you anytime we don't have you, Maestro. That's the biggest point. Look, we're bringing you on starting today and looking forward as well because we want to talk specifically SimWorld prep. And we're going to do that. But I'm not going to start there because I know your Jets affinity. So I wanted to get your take first on the fact that the players during SWFLPA survey gave the owner of the Jets, Woody Johnson, a resounding F grade. And I'm just curious your opinion on that grade, if it's a fair opinion or if maybe it's a little unfair.
It's fair in terms of just the general operations of the Jets have been for a while just so disconnected, and the players feel that, right? The players understand what their travel arrangements are, because for those who don't know, it's always about like your travel arrangements, how you treat the family of the players, your rehab facilities, your practice facilities. So there's a whole lot of thing that goes into this grade. And what has happened is over the last years, Woody Johnson has sort of really separated himself from the rest of the organization, and he's trying to be like Jerry Jones / Al Davis light, and he just does not have the acumen to do that. And so what has happened is the players have found themselves almost on an island without him being around, and the players he chooses to associate himself with as a favor has really caused a rift within the locker room. And unfortunately, that rift has also led into how the team is managed and how the team is run. So in a lot of ways, there's a little anger in those grades that went in there, and I can understand that, but they're not unfair in terms of the reality of where the Jets are as an organization. I'm sorry, just horrible right now. One of the worst organizations in the league. So that F might be a little too high in some people's opinion.
It feels warranted. Yeah, a little high feels like I could understand, I could emphasize with somebody that thinks that, because just this last season alone, but the last 2 years with the firing of a head coach, you remove your general manager, right? I think they fired their general manager. They had so much drama, I can't keep it all straight. But and then of course hanging over all of that is this pursuit and ultimately disaster of the Aaron Rodgers 2-year era in the city, and of course him coming down flies in on his helicopter so that he can come in and make these decisions. It's stunning, all of what happened last season. If you're in New York, you're always going to be a center of attention, particularly the Jets. They are very much in line with the Cowboys in terms of one of the most popular franchises. You talk about them, people are going to listen because their fan base is large enough for everybody to want to care and hear what you have to say. It's the same thing with teams like the Lakers and the Knicks, right? But even so, it seems like the last 2 years have been more chaotic than normal, with everything that has surrounded this football team, with the pursuit of Devontae Adams, which ultimately they were successful in, but I don't know if they should have been. So overall, it just seems this grade felt fair. It's very unsurprising, and it's challenging to see where they go from here. Not that the ownership is getting fired, but the future ahead is going to be unique. Speaking of future ahead, let's get to prep conversation, and that is The Last Dance, which starts on March 7th. The bracket was revealed as we prepare to see if we can get one heck of a exciting run. Of course, we got the top teams getting buys. Chief among them is Philadelphia Elite with the number 1 seed. Best Coast Ballers end up with the number 2 seed. What's your takeaway as we get the bracket finally unveiled? 24 teams in, only one can remain.
I really like the idea of how it's sort of laid out. And just to say, sort of in passing conversation with all the voices in my head, there are a lot of teams that are peaking at the right time. Philadelphia Elite, of course, is everyone's favorite. They actually took home 3 tourney trophies this year. And the setup that SimWorld admin went through in order to set up the AAU style season for prep has taught us a lot, and we've seen a lot of great development with players. So I think this is sort of leaning into a great end of year 2 week tournament. The Philadelphia Elite, Best Coast Ballers, and the Yacht Club are in the top three, but they also have the talent to get them there. They performed well all year and been most consistent. And I just can't wait to see a couple of dark horses, Marsh. I can't wait to see a couple of dark horses that I'm hoping for that's going to pull out toward in this tournament and get a chance to really show us that they've actually been putting in the work in the classroom, so to speak.
So you mentioned the top three teams. Who do you have as dark horses?
Dark horses, okay, I'm gonna start with Gulf Coast with but Gulf Coast is going to go how Kai Killen goes, right? Kai Killens is one of those cats that really gives a lot to his team, really tries to put himself in a position to be successful. And I think if he's able to put together a tournament, which we know he's capable of in terms of what we've seen him do on the floor, I think he's going to give them a chance to really make some noise. SimWorld Africa, behind Dara Storm, he's just emerged as one of those all-around players. He sort of reminds me of what Corey Yams did last season in terms of going from being considered a defensive player to all of a sudden showing us some offensive stuff too. So I'm really looking forward. He seemed like his game started to get together, even though SimWorld Africa was sort of struggling. And last but not least, we just sort of talked about them. We just saw them. Bay Area Breakers. Yes, we know the work that Jake Lee is doing, but myself, I'm sort of itching about Jay Midoriya. He was starting to really find his grouping on the floor and being that X factor that they needed. And I think they're kind of coming together at the right time to make a run. Let's see what's going to happen if they make it to, the Elite Eight or the Final Four or how, or, exactly how that works out. So it's going to be really exciting, Marsh, man. I'm telling you. Woo.
Before we get to the players, are we going to get a not a repeat or a return champion? Are we seeing Beasts of the East or or the originators crown champions, or do we get a third different champion?
This
And maybe a
year,
fourth, 'cause I guess, but what,
yeah,
not Southeast, but
right,
Pacific.
right, exactly. Marsh, I really think we're going to get a new champion this year. I think if you were to ask me, okay, so take the previous champions, put them against the field. I think I'm going to take the field this year only because the parity has gotten so much stronger. We've seen so many teams sort of get themselves in a position to, come back when, Yale says this all the time, love Yales, but he says this all the time. So many people tend to give up on a game really early. Next thing you know, a team has a 30-point fourth quarter and come back, right? Well, that speaks to the parity in this league, right? So it's hard to see the idea of a team being totally in control the whole time. So anything is possible. But I think we're going to get a different champion this year. I think we're going to get a different team to hoist up the trophy at the end of the season just because of just how the talent is so spread out in SimWorld Prep.
Do you have a team in mind?
Ooh, itchy, itchy, itchy. I'm gonna talk about that later today in my
Okay.
talking dirty with your boy. But I want to tease a little bit. It's somebody that might surprise you.
Okay. All right. More
Ooh.
to come on that with Dirty Shorts. All right, let's head to the player side of things. Who are some names that you're interested in watching during the Last Dance?
Aside from the people I mentioned already, certainly a player like Jake Lee has sort of come into his own. His coach gave him a really, really good review in terms of what he was able to do. But also, the players we talk about all the time, Monty Parson and Tony Henderson, those guys in terms of what they were able to put up. Of course, we see Kai Killens coming to his own again, talked about him. But, players that have come away with, player of the tournaments, Oli Cortez, Darius, oh my goodness, Kenyon Moore. It's just so, Willerick Krause, I have to say it that way. Just so many players, Marsh. It's like you cannot go wrong. And the beauty of how our SimWorld Prep is set up is that every team has at least two players that are impactful, that are able to produce, but also even the players that might not necessarily be on your radar, might not necessarily be ranked, as it were, have a way of coming through at the exact right time. And we end up saying their name way too much.
All right, so that is it. So big names to watch in The Last Dance. We'll get more from Maestro on a maybe surprise team to win it. Keep an eye on the dark horses from all the way down. You said right, the 23rd ranked team, I think they are. Or excuse me, 23rd. You think Africa, Gulf Coast, and Bay Area could all be disruptors of The Last Dance. All of that gets rolling on March 7th with the opening round. Plenty of excitement ahead in The Last Dance. We will certainly be keeping an eye on the largest, the biggest, most impressive prep tournament in the country, championship game, of course, following weekend at 2 p.m. as originators try to make their way back to two-time champions, Beasts of the East try to make two-time champions, or could we see Philadelphia, Best Coast, a couple of teams that have surprised and been on the cusp the last couple of seasons, yet just have not quite gotten it done in The Last Dance. So, Maestro, we appreciate the insight. All that, again, begins on March 7th. In the meantime, we got some SimWorld U action on the horizon tonight. Michigan and Iowa start things off on ESPN in a broadcasted game for the Big Ten. And then we follow it up. We head out west for the Pac-12, Oregon and Cal. Finishes off the night, both games on ESPN. Plenty of ranked teams in action. Georgia Tech goes to Virginia, Kansas hosting Oklahoma State, Texas visiting Baylor, and UCLA hosting Washington State here on a Thursday morning. All right, Maestro, we appreciate you taking the time to join us. We're hopefully getting you back next Thursday as we will dive into the final preview of The Last Dance and all that's going to come of it. I'm Marsh. That's Maestro. We appreciate you tuning in here on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.
This has been a presentation of SimWorld Sports.